We took mushrooms in the rain and opened the wrong door. We ate the mushrooms around noon, 4 grams each, washed down with mango juice and optimism, because that's what the day felt like. Gray skies, soft rain, and the kind of lazy afternoon where it's okay for time to fall apart. My friend Jamie and I had planned it for weeks. A quiet mushroom trip in the house, no phones, no pressure, just the two of us. A rainy window, some warm blankets, and maybe a weird movie queued up if we could ever decide on one. I'd taken that dose before, but never with an edible on top. Jamie had brought 2 peanut butter cookies infused with God knows how much THC, and we each ate one right after the mushrooms kicked in, thinking it would smooth out the ride. For the first 90 minutes, everything was beautiful. The rain on the windows looked like the sky was crying slow glass. The plants in the living room swayed even though there was no breeze. Jamie and I curled up under the same blanket and stared at the ceiling fan like it was explaining the secrets of the universe in Morse code. We laughed so hard at nothing, we forgot what jokes were. I remember thinking, this is the perfect trip, and for a moment, it was. But then something shifted. Not a crash, not a bad vibe, just a slow realization that the room had too many corners. I blinked and felt the geometry stretch. The walls leaned slightly inward. The floor pulsed. I looked at Jamie and saw his mouth moving, but heard no sound. Then I heard my name, quiet, behind me, but no one was there. I turned around, still no one. But I felt it, like someone had just left the room a second before I turned. Jamie whispered, "Do you hear that?" And I said, "What?" And he said, "The breathing." I held still and listened. The air was expanding and contracting like lungs. Not metaphorically, literally. I watched the wallpaper ripple. Then I noticed the hallway light was on. We hadn't turned it on. In fact, I couldn't remember the hallway even being there. I stood up slowly and walked toward it. Each step felt like I was pushing through fog made of wool. I looked back and Jamie was still on the couch, wide-eyed, but smaller somehow. The hallway was longer than it should have been. I passed the bathroom, then the bedroom, then a door I didn't recognize. It was at the end, on the left. Smooth, white, no handle. Just there, like it had always been waiting. I stared at it and felt the edible kick in hard. My limbs softened, my mouth dried up, my heartbeat echoing like it was coming from outside my body. I turned around to go back, but the hallway behind me was darker now, shorter, tighter. I touched the wall. It felt warm, like skin. I whispered, "This isn't our house." But I didn't believe it. I turned back to the door. It opened. No sound. Just a slow, silent glide like a dream folding open. Inside was a room with no furniture, no windows, no lights, but I could still see. The walls were the same color as memory, and in the center of the room was a spiral. Not drawn, built. A sculpture of pure direction, pulling inward. I took one step inside and immediately felt like I was falling. The floor didn't move, but my awareness did. I dropped into myself again and again, like looping back through every age I'd ever been. I saw myself as a child, terrified and hiding under a table. I saw myself crying in the mirror after my father died. I saw myself drunk and laughing at nothing. I saw every moment I ever pretended to be okay. The spiral pulsed. Jamie appeared beside me, but older, covered in dust, like he'd been here for years. He whispered, "This is where the others go." I asked, "What others?" And he said, "Everyone who opens the wrong door." His voice wasn't angry, just tired. I blinked and he was gone. I tried to leave, but the door had vanished. I touched the wall where it had been and my hand passed through. My fingers dissolved into particles, reassembled as insects, scattered, and returned to me. I screamed without sound. I collapsed to my knees and the spiral rose from the floor, reaching for me. It wasn't evil. It was curious. It wanted to know what I was. It peeled me apart, not with hands, but with questions. It asked me why I lied, why I stayed, why I forgave people who didn't ask, why I remembered pain like it was a favorite song. I sobbed. The room filled with static. I heard my mother's voice reciting a grocery list. I smelled my high school cafeteria. I felt the heat of my first kiss. Then the spiral receded, satisfied, and the room returned to silence. I stood up. My legs felt wrong, like they were borrowed. The door was back. I stepped through. The hallway was shorter now. The lights were off. Jamie was sitting on the floor, crying. I sat next to him. We didn't speak. We just held hands and stared at the blank TV screen. The rain had stopped. Outside the window, the world looked paused, like a photo. Eventually, Jamie whispered, "Did we do something wrong?" And I said, "No, I think we just touched the edge of something." We lay on the floor until sunrise, listening to the fridge hum and the wood settle. The mushrooms wore off slowly, but the door stayed in my mind. I checked later. It wasn't there. The hallway ended at the bedroom, just like it always had. But I still see it sometimes, when I wake up too fast or blink too long. And I think about that spiral, not with fear, but with respect, because some part of me knows it's still spinning and it remembers me.